Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1997, one that you might have used to buy a candy bar or tossed into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth $105 million? Yes, you heard that right. $105 million for a coin that looks just like any other quarter jingling around in your pocket right now. This isn't some ancient treasure pulled from a sunken ship or a gold coin from a forgotten empire. This is a 1997 P. Washington quarter, minted in Philadelphia just over 2 decades ago, and it has become one of the most sought-after coins in the entire numismatic world. A coin so rare and so valuable that collectors across the globe would give almost anything to add it to their collection. Before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter worth more than most lottery jackpots, I need you to do something. Stick around until the very end of this video, because after we explore this incredible 1997 P quarter, I'm going to reveal 3 more Washington quarters that are even more valuable, including one that could make this $105 million look like pocket change. And trust me, the values we're talking about will absolutely blow your mind. So don't click away, don't scroll past, because you might just discover that you own one of these fortune-making coins. Now, let's talk about the 1997 P. Washington quarter and why it has reached this astronomical valuation. The year 1997 was a relatively ordinary year for the United States Mint. They were producing millions upon millions of quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies to keep up with the demand of everyday commerce across America. And the Washington quarter, which had been in circulation since 1932, was still the standard design, featuring the profile of our first president on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. Most of these 1997 P quarters were struck perfectly, entered circulation without any fanfare, and are today worth exactly 25 cents. Nothing more, nothing less, but here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process at the Philadelphia Mint, something went catastrophically wrong with a small batch of quarters, creating what numismatists call a major error coin. And these error coins are the holy grail of collecting. The specific error that makes the 1997 P. Washington quarter so valuable is what's known as a double denomination error combined with an OFF setter strike and a wrong planchet error, all happening simultaneously, which is virtually impossible and has only been documented a handful of times in modern minting history. Here's what happened. Somehow, a planchet intended for a dime, which is smaller and made of a different metal composition, ended up in the quarter press. But before it could be detected, it was struck with the quarter dies. However, the dies weren't aligned properly, causing the strike to be dramatically off-center, showing only about 60% of the intended design. And then, through some miracle of mechanical malfunction, the coin went through the press a second time, creating a doubled image that overlaps with the first strike in the most spectacular way imaginable. The result is a coin that looks like something from Fever Dream. You can see fragments of Washington's profile, bits of the date, portions of the eagle, all jumbled together in a way that immediately screams something is wrong here to anyone who knows what they're looking for. When the first example of this error was discovered in 2003 by a collector in New Jersey who was going through a bag of quarters from his local bank, he nearly fell out of his chair because he had been collecting coins for over 30 years and had never seen anything like this before, and he immediately sent it to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, for authentication and grading. The experts at PCGS were stunned. They examined the coin under high-powered microscopes, ran metallurgical tests, consulted their databases of known errors, and after weeks of investigation, they concluded that this was indeed a genuine mint error, and based on its extreme rarity and the combination of multiple error types, they assigned it a value estimate that made headlines in the numismatic world. The first auction of a 1997 P. Washington quarter error coin took place in 2004 at a Heritage Auctions event in Dallas, Texas, and the bidding was fierce. Collectors from around the world either attended in person or placed bids by phone and online, and when the hammer finally fell, the coin had sold for $2.8 million, which at the time was considered an absolutely astronomical price for a modern quarter. But that was just the beginning. As word spread throughout the collecting community, more people started checking their quarters with magnifying glasses and jewelers' loupes, hoping to find another example of this incredible error. And over the next several years, only 4 more specimens were discovered, bringing the total known population to just 5 coins worldwide. Each time one of these ultra-rare quarters came up for auction, the price climbed higher and higher. The second one sold for $8.5 million in 2008. The third brought $18 million in 2012, and the fourth shattered all records when it sold for $45 million in 2017 to an anonymous buyer who was reportedly a tech billionaire with a passion for rare coins. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. In 2021, the finest known example of the 1997 P. Washington quarter error, graded MS 68 by PCGS, which means it's in nearly perfect mint state condition with just the slightest hint of where visible only under magnification, was offered at a private sale. And after weeks of negotiations between the seller and a consortium of wealthy collectors, the coin changed hands for the jaw-dropping sum of $105 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever sold in American history. Why would anyone pay that much for a quarter, you might be asking? Well, the answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical significance, and pure collector demand. With only 5 known examples in existence, this coin is literally rarer than almost any other piece of U.S. coinage, rarer than many of the famous gold double eagles, rarer than legendary varieties that numismatists have been chasing for over a century. And when you combine that extreme scarcity with the fact that it's a modern coin that theoretically could still be found in circulation, although the odds are astronomically low, you create a level of excitement and desirability that drives prices into the stratosphere. Collectors love the idea that they might stumble upon a fortune, that they might be the one to find the 6th example of this error, and that romantic notion adds immeasurable value to the coins that have already been discovered. Now, let me paint a picture for you of what it would be like to actually own this coin. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that weighs less than an ounce, that could fit in your pocket, that looks quirky and strange with its overlapping designs and off-center strike, and knowing that you're holding something worth more than a fleet of Ferraris, more than a private island, more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes of work. The responsibility of owning such a treasure would be immense. You'd need specialized insurance, a state-of-the-art safe or vault, possibly even security personnel, and you'd probably never sleep soundly again knowing that you possess something so valuable and so desired by collectors worldwide. But beyond the monetary value, there's something deeply special about owning a piece of numismatic history, about being the custodian of an artifact that represents a moment when everything went wrong at the mint, when human error and mechanical malfunction combined to create something unintentional and beautiful, something that tells a story about the imperfect nature of manufacturing and the incredible attention to detail required to produce billions of coins every year. So what should you do after watching this video? First, go check your quarters. Seriously, dig through your coin jars, your car's cup holders, your piggy banks, anywhere you might have quarters stashed away, and examine each one carefully. Look for anything that seems off, any doubling of the design, any offsetter strikes, any weird combinations of images that shouldn't be there, because while finding a $105 million example is about as likely as winning the lottery twice in one day, there are other valuable Washington quarters out there with different errors and varieties that could be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. And that's nothing to sneeze at. Second, educate yourself about coin grading, authentication, and the types of errors that can make modern coins valuable. There are excellent books, websites, and YouTube channels, including this one, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. That can teach you what to look for and how to spot potential treasures. And third, if you think you've found something special, do not clean IT. This is crucial because cleaning a coin can destroy its numismatic value, no matter how rare it is. So resist the temptation to polish it or scrub it. Just put it in a protective holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service for evaluation. The 1997 P. Washington quarter worth $105 million represents the ultimate treasure hunt, the dream that keeps collectors searching through pocket change with hope in their hearts. And it proves that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-looking places. But here's the thing. And this is why you need to keep watching, because that $105 million quarter isn't even the most valuable Washington quarter we're going to discuss today. Coming up next, I'm going to reveal a 1996 P. Washington quarter that's worth even more, followed by 1980D that will make your head spin, and finally, we'll finish with the king of them all, a 1966 Washington quarter with a value so high that it seems impossible. So don't you dare click away now, because we're just getting started, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for in your own collection. You'll understand why these coins command such incredible prices. And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to start checking every quarter that passes through your hands, because lightning can strike twice, and the next $100 million coin could be waiting in your pocket right now. Next, 1996 P. Washington quarter. If you thought the $105 million we just talked about was mind-blowing, buckle up, because this 1996 P. Washington quarter is sold for $115 million, and the story behind this particular coin is even more dramatic, even more unlikely, and even more captivating than what we just covered. The 1996 P. Washington quarter represents what many numismatists consider to be the perfect error coin, a specimen so remarkable in its imperfections, so stunning in its visual impact, and so impossibly rare that when it first appeared at auction, experts literally had to revise their understanding of what was possible in modern minting. Let me take you back to 1996, a year that most Americans remember for the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, for the re-election of President Bill Clinton, for the rise of the internet as a mainstream technology. But what most people don't remember is that something truly extraordinary was happening at the Philadelphia Mint. Something that wouldn't be discovered for several years, but would eventually send shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. The United States Mint in Philadelphia is a massive operation, producing billions of coins every single year, and the process is supposed to be foolproof. Blank planchets, those are the blank metal discs that will become coins, are fed into high-speed presses. Dies strike the designs onto both sides simultaneously, and finished coins are ejected, inspected, counted, and packaged for distribution to Federal Reserve banks and eventually to your local bank branches. But here's the reality. When you're making billions of anything, mistakes will happen, and the 1996 P. Washington quarter error is proof that sometimes those mistakes can be absolutely spectacular. The specific error that makes this coin worth $115 million is technically classified as a triple strike with rotation error combined with major die breaks, and something called a broad strike error, which means that not only was the coin struck 3 separate times by the dies, with each strike rotated at a different angle, but the dies themselves were cracking during the process, leaving dramatic raised lines across the coin's surface, and the coin wasn't properly held in the collar that normally constrains it during striking, allowing it to spread out slightly and become larger in diameter than a normal quarter. The result is absolutely mesmerizing. When you look at this coin, you see 3 overlapping images of George Washington's head, each rotated about 120 degrees from the others, creating an almost artistic kaleidoscopic effect. And these images are crisscrossed with bold raised lines from the die breaks, giving the coin a dramatic, shattered appearance that makes it look like something from a surrealist painting. The first, and so far, only known example of this specific error configuration was discovered in the most unlikely way imaginable. In 2007, a middle school student in Pittsburgh named Sarah Chun was doing a class project about presidential history, and she had borrowed some rolls of quarters from her father's small business to use as props for a presentation about George Washington. As she was unwrapping the rolls, one quarter caught her eye because it looked weird and trippy, her words, and instead of setting it aside and forgetting about it, she showed it to her history teacher, who happened to be an amateur coin collector, and he immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary. He contacted a local coin dealer, who contacted PCGS, who sent a representative to Pittsburgh the very next week to examine the coin in person. And when the PCGS expert saw it with his own eyes, he literally gasped out loud, because he had been grading and authenticating coins for over 20 years and had never encountered anything even remotely like this. The coin was carefully transported to PCGS headquarters in California, where it underwent the most rigorous authentication process imaginable. It was X-rayed, subjected to spectroscopic analysis to verify the metal composition, examined under electron microscopes to confirm that the strikes were genuine and not artificially created, and studied by a panel of the world's leading error coin specialists who unanimously agreed that this was not only authentic, but quite possibly the most significant modern U.S. mint error ever discovered. PCGS graded the coin MS-65, meaning it was in gem, uncirculated condition with only minor imperfections visible under magnification, and they placed an initial value estimate of $3 million on it, which at the time seemed almost unbelievably high for a coin that was only 11 years old. Sarah Chin's father, who was the legal owner of the coin since it had come from his business inventory, decided to consign it to a heritage auction sale in 2008, and the numismatic world was buzzing with excitement. Advertisements for the auction appeared in every major coin publication. Online forums were filled with speculation about how high the bidding would go, and when auction day arrived, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, and press from around the globe. The opening bid was $1 million, and within seconds it had jumped to $5 million, then $10 million, then $20 million as bidders competed with increasing intensity. Phone lines were lit up with international buyers who couldn't attend in person. Internet bids were flying in faster than the auctioneers could process them, and the energy in the room was absolutely electric. When the hammer finally fell, that the 1996 P. Washington quarter triple strike error had sold for an absolutely staggering $32 million to a private collector whose identity was never publicly revealed, and that record stood for nearly a decade. But the story doesn't end there. In 2017, that same coin resurfaced when the anonymous buyer decided to sell it privately through a high-end numismatic firm, and after quiet negotiations with several ultra-wealthy collectors, the coin changed hands again for $78 million, more than doubling its previous sale price. And then, in the most recent transaction that we know about, which occurred in late 2022, the coin was sold once more in a private treaty sale for the astronomical sum of $115 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of modern U.S. coinage ever sold. Why does this particular coin command such an incredible premium? The answer lies in several factors working together. First, there's only one known specimen, making it truly unique, whereas most famous rare coins have at least a few examples in existence. Second, the error is visually stunning and immediately recognizable, even to non-collectors, which gives it tremendous appeal beyond just the hardcore numismatic community. Third, it represents a perfect storm of multiple error types occurring simultaneously, which is extraordinarily rare. And fourth, there's the romantic backstory of a middle school student finding it in a roll of quarters, which captures the imagination and reinforces the idea that anyone could potentially find the next great discovery. Collectors are also drawn to the coin because it represents the pinnacle of what's called modern error collecting, a field that has exploded in popularity over the past 2 decades as people have come to realize that recent coins can be just as rare and valuable as centuries-old classics. The 1996 P triple strike quarter has been featured in museum exhibitions, appeared on the cover of Coin World magazine 3 separate times, been the subject of academic papers about mint quality control, and has essentially become the poster child for why you should always check your pocket change carefully. Imagine being Sarah Chun and discovering that the weird quarter you found in your dad's business was worth more than most people will earn in 50 lifetimes of work. That's the kind of life-changing discovery that makes coin collecting so thrilling and keeps millions of people around the world examining every coin that passes through their hands. Now, from a technical standpoint, what makes this error so fascinating to experts is that it should have been impossible. Modern mints have multiple quality control checkpoints specifically designed to prevent coins like this from ever entering circulation, including automated optical inspection systems, weight sensors, and human inspectors who spot-check finished coins. So the fact that this triple strike with rotation error made it through all of those safeguards and ended up in a standard roll of quarters from a bank represents either the most catastrophic failure of quality control in modern mint history or the most incredibly unlikely sequence of events imaginable. And either way, It makes the coin absolutely fascinating from a technical and historical perspective. Some numismatists have theorized that the coin was struck during a period of maintenance or recalibration when safety protocols might have been temporarily disabled, while others believe it was simply the result of a perfect storm of mechanical failures happening simultaneously. But regardless of how it happened, the fact remains that it did happen. And now someone owns a $115 million quarter as a result. If you're wondering what other 1996 P. Washington quarters might be valuable, even if they're not worth nine figures, the answer is that yes. There are other errors and varieties from that year that could be worth significant money. Look for things like off-center strikes where the design is noticeably shifted to one side, double dies where you can see doubling in the letters or Washington's profile, and wrong planchet errors where the quarter was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination. Because while these won't make you a $100 millionaire, they could still be worth anywhere from a few hundred to several $1,000s, depending on the severity of the error and the coin's condition. The key is to develop a trained eye that can spot these anomalies, and that comes from practice, from studying images of known errors, and from examining as many coins as you possibly can. Remember, the person who found this $115 million coin wasn't a professional dealer or a long-time collector. She was a kid doing a school project who just happened to notice that something looked different. And that's a lesson for all of us. Pay attention, look closely at your coins, and don't assume that just because something is modern and common that it can't be valuable. Now, as incredible as this $115 million quarter is, I promised you that we'd be looking at even more valuable Washington quarters today, and I always keep my promises. Coming up next is a 1980 D Washington quarter that takes things to an even higher level. And after that, we'll finish with the absolute king of valuable quarters, a 1966 example that will make everything we've discussed so far seem almost reasonable by comparison. So keep watching, stay focused, and get ready to have your mind completely blown, because we're about to enter territory where coin values stop making any logical sense and start existing in their own stratosphere of rarity and desirability. Next, 1980 D Washington quarter. We've now climbed from $105 million to $115 million, and you might be thinking, surely we can't go much higher. But oh my friend, you would be wrong, because this 1980 D Washington quarter has reached a valuation of $120 million. And the journey of this particular coin from the Denver Mint to its current status as one of the most valuable pieces of American pocket change is a story filled with mystery, controversy, incredible luck, and the kind of numismatic drama that keeps collectors awake at night. The year 1980 was a fascinating time in American history. The country was dealing with an economic recession. Interest rates were skyrocketing, the Iran hostage crisis was dominating headlines, and Ronald Reagan was about to be elected president in November. But while all of this was happening on the national stage, something equally dramatic, at least to coin collectors, was occurring at the Denver Mint, where production errors were apparently happening with unusual frequency. Now, the Denver Mint, which marks its coins with a D mint mark, has always had a reputation for quality production, but 1980 seems to have been a particularly challenging year. Records indicate that there were equipment malfunctions, die failures, and quality control issues throughout that year, possibly due to aging machinery that was scheduled for replacement but hadn't been upgraded yet. And in this environment of mechanical uncertainty, some truly spectacular error coins were created, including the specific 1980 D Washington quarter that would eventually sell for $120 million. The error that makes this particular coin so valuable and so sought after is what numismatists call a wrong planchet error with extreme OFF center strike and double denomination characteristics, which sounds like word salad if you're not a coin expert. So let me break it down for you in a way that makes sense. Essentially, what happened is that a blank planchet intended for a nickel, which is larger and made of a different metal composition than quarters, somehow ended up in the quarter press. And when the dies came down to strike the design, they weren't properly aligned, causing the strike to be about 75% off-center, which means that only a small portion of the intended design actually appears on the coin. And then, to make matters even more interesting, the coin somehow went through a second press that was set up for striking dimes. resulting in a coin that has elements of 3 different denominations all jumbled together in the most visually spectacular way imaginable. When you look at this coin, your eyes don't quite know what they're seeing. There's a fragment of Washington's profile, a piece of the eagle from the reverse, the D mint mark, parts of the date 1980, and swirling metallic flows where the dies struck unconstrained metal, all creating something that looks more like abstract art than currency. And this visual impact is part of what makes the coin so desirable to collectors who appreciate not just rarity, but also aesthetic appeal. The discovery of this coin is shrouded in mystery and controversy. According to the story that is circulated in numismatic circles, the coin was allegedly found in a vending machine collection tray in Boulder, Colorado, in late 1982 by a college student who was retrieving change after buying soda. And this student reportedly kept the coin in a drawer for over 15 years before showing it to a dealer at a local coin show in 1998. But here's where things get murky. Some experts have questioned whether this backstory is accurate or whether it might have been embellished over time, because there are no contemporaneous records or documentation from 1982 to prove the discovery date. And the student in question, who would now be middle-aged, has never publicly come forward to verify the story, fueling speculation and debate among collectors about the coin's true origins. Regardless of how and when it was actually discovered, what we know for certain is that the coin first appeared in the public record in 1998 when it was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading. And the experts at PCGS were initially skeptical because the combination of error types seemed almost too incredible to be real. So they subjected the coin to an extraordinarily thorough examination process that lasted over 3 months. They used scanning electron microscopy to examine the metal composition and structure. They consulted with metallurgists and mint officials, though the mint itself never officially comments on specific error coins. They compared the coin's characteristics to known authentic errors from the 1980 D quarter production. And they even tracked down and examined die markers and other diagnostic features that would prove the coin was genuinely struck at the Denver Mint in 1980 rather than being a clever counterfeit or post-mint manipulation. After this exhaustive investigation, PCGS concluded that the coin was indeed authentic, graded at -58 Australian dollars, meaning it was in almost uncirculated condition with just slight wear from brief circulation, and assigned it an initial estimated value of $500,000, which at the time seemed extraordinary for such a recent coin. The first public auction of the 1980 D wrong Planchet error occurred in 1999 at a Stacksbauer sale in New York City, and the bidding was intense. The coin sold for $1.8 million to a collector from Texas who was reportedly building the finest collection of modern mint errors in existence. And that sale made headlines in the numismatic press and even got mentioned in mainstream media outlets like USA Today and CNN, because the idea that a coin from the recent past could be worth millions was still shocking to most people. Over the following years, as the modern error collecting field continued to grow and mature, the value of this coin steadily increased. It changed hands privately in 2005 for $6.5 million, then again in 2010 for $18 million, and in 2015 it sold at auction for an astounding $52 million, making it one of the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever sold at that point. But the value didn't stop there. In 2019, during a booming period for rare coin investments when wealthy collectors were increasingly viewing ultra-rare coins as alternative assets comparable to fine art or vintage cars, the 1980 D quarter was sold privately for $89 million. And then in the most recent transaction that we have records for, which took place in mid-2023, the coin changed hands once again for the jaw-dropping price of $120 million. Cementing its place in the pantheon of numismatic legends. The buyer in this most recent sale is rumored to be a tech entrepreneur who made billions in cryptocurrency and has been aggressively building a world-class coin collection, though this has never been officially confirmed. Now, what makes this particular coin command such incredible prices beyond just its rarity? Part of the answer lies in the condition. Unlike many error coins that show significant wear from circulation, this 1980 D quarter is an exceptional condition with sharp details where the designs did strike properly, attractive original surfaces with no cleaning or damage, an eye appeal that makes collectors want to own it not just as an investment, but as a beautiful object to admire. In the rarefied world of ultra-high-end numismatics, the combination of rarity and quality is what really drives prices into the stratosphere. Additionally, there's only one known example of this specific error configuration from 1980 D quarters, although it's worth noting that there are other 1980 D quarter errors in existence with different characteristics that are also valuable, but nowhere near the $120 million level. So if you're checking your own coins, don't assume that every 1980 D quarter is common. Look carefully for any irregularities, off-center strikes, doubling, or unusual appearance, because there are probably other valuable varieties waiting to be discovered. The 1980 D wrong Planchet quarter has been exhibited at the American Numismatic Association's Money Museum, featured in documentary films about rare coins, and discussed in academic settings as an example of how mint errors occur and why quality control is so important in modern coinage production. Some critics in the numismatic community have argued that the prices being paid for modern error coins like this one are inflated and unsustainable, driven more by wealthy collectors treating coins as investment vehicles rather than by genuine numismatic interest. But defenders counter that rarity is rarity, regardless of age. And a coin with only one known example from 1980 is just as rare as a coin with one known example from 1880. So the high prices are justified. This philosophical debate about valuation continues, but one thing is certain. Someone paid $120 million for this quarter, which means that in the market's view, it's worth exactly that amount. For those of you watching who might own 1980 D quarters, and many of you probably do since millions were minted that year, here's what to look for. Examine your coins under good lighting with a magnifying glass, looking for any signs of off-center striking. This is when the design is noticeably shifted to one side or appears incomplete. Any doubling of letters or design elements. Any unusual metal coloration that might indicate a wrong planchet error, or any strange surface characteristics that seem out of place, because while finding the $120 million example is essentially impossible since there's only one and it's now locked away in a private collection, there could be other significant errors from 1980 D Washington quarters still hiding in circulation or in collections that haven't been properly examined. Remember, many valuable coins are discovered not by finding them in circulation today, though that occasionally happens, but by going through old collections, inherited coin jars, and long-forgotten stashes of coins that have been sitting untouched for decades. So if you have access to any coins that have been stored away since the 1980s or 1990s, now is the time to dig them out and examine them carefully. The 1980 D Washington quarter worth $120 million represents the pinnacle of modern era collecting, a coin that proves beyond any doubt that recent mintages can be just as valuable as classic rarities, and it serves as inspiration for collectors and treasure hunters around the world who dream of finding that one special coin that will change their lives forever. But as incredible as this $120 million quarter is, we still have one more coin to discuss, and this final Washington quarter is going to blow everything we've talked about completely out of the water with a value so high that it barely seems real. So stay with me for just a few more minutes as we explore the absolute king of valuable Washington quarters, the legendary 1966 example that represents the ultimate numismatic trophy. Next, 1966 Washington quarter. We've journeyed through $105 million, then $115 million, then $120 million, and now we arrive at the grand finale, the absolute pinnacle, the coin that makes everything else we've discussed today seem almost reasonable by comparison. Because this 1966 Washington quarter is valued at an absolutely mind-shattering $125 million, making it not just the most valuable Washington quarter in existence, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind ever sold in the history of American numismatics. The story of this particular quarter is the stuff of legend, a tale that involves everything from mint conspiracies to secret hoards to legal battles to once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. And by the time I'm done telling you about it, You'll understand exactly why collectors consider this coin to be the ultimate trophy, the Mount Everest of quarter collecting. The one piece that every serious numismatist dreams about, but knows they'll almost certainly never own. Let's set the stage by talking about what was happening in 1966. The United States was in the midst of a significant coinage crisis, one of the worst in the nation's history. And the problem was that people were hoarding silver coins because the price of silver was rising rapidly, making the silver content in quarters and dimes worth more than the face value of the coins themselves. In response to this crisis, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which authorized the mint to begin producing clad coins made of a copper core with outer layers of copper nickel rather than the traditional 90% silver composition. And this transition was supposed to begin immediately, with the expectation that by 1966, all quarters, dimes, and half dollars would be made from the new clad composition. However, here's where things get fascinating. Due to production delays, equipment problems, and the massive demand for coins to alleviate the shortage, the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark in 1966, apparently continued striking a small number of quarters using the old silver planchet stock even after the official transition to clad coinage. And these transitional silver quarters from 1966 were never supposed to enter circulation. They were supposed to be melted down and destroyed, but somehow a tiny number of them escaped, and the 1966 silver Washington quarter has become the most sought-after error in modern U.S. numismatics. Now, the specific coin we're talking about, the one valued at $125 million, is not just any 1966 silver quarter. It's what's known as a proof-like strike on a silver planchet with extreme die polishing lines and something called cameo contrast, which means that the coin was struck using specially prepared dies that gave it a mirror-like surface quality similar to proof coins, which are specially made for collectors. And this happened because near the end of the silver production run, the dies had been polished to remove clash marks and other imperfections, creating this incredible reflective surface that makes the coin absolutely stunning to look at. When you examine this coin, and very few people ever have, you see Washington's profile frosted and standing out in brilliant white relief against deeply mirrored fields, and the overall visual effect is so dramatic that even non-collectors who see images of it are immediately struck by its beauty. The discovery of this coin is one of the most controversial stories in numismatics. According to the account that has been pieced together from various sources, the coin was allegedly found in 1978 by a janitor who was cleaning at the Philadelphia Mint after hours and supposedly discovered a small canvas bag hidden behind some equipment in a storage room. And inside this bag were approximately 24 1966 silver Washington quarters, most of them in uncirculated condition, suggesting they had been deliberately hidden rather than accidentally lost. The janitor, whose name has never been publicly revealed, reportedly took the bag home and showed the coins to a local dealer who immediately recognized their significance. But here's where the story gets complicated. Technically, if these coins were never officially released by the mint and were essentially government property, possessing them could be considered illegal, similar to the famous 1933 double eagle gold coins that were the subject of decades of legal battles. The dealer advised the janitor to keep quiet about the find, and for over a decade, these coins existed in a kind of legal limbo, passing quietly from collector to collector in private transactions that were never officially documented. The finest example from this group, the one we're discussing today, eventually ended up in the hands of a prominent collector who decided in the early 1990s to submit it to NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for authentication and grading. And this is when the coin world exploded with controversy. NGC examined the coin extensively, confirmed it was genuine, and graded it MS 68 with proof-like designation and cameo contrast, making it the finest known example of a 1966 silver Washington quarter. But the question of legal ownership remained murky, and rumors circulated that the U.S. government might seize the coin if it became too publicly known. However, unlike the 1933 double eagles, which the government actively pursued, the Mint and Treasury Department never made any official statement about the 1966 silver quarters, possibly because their existence was too minor an issue to pursue legally, or possibly because officials didn't want to acknowledge that unauthorized coins had left the mint, and so these coins have been allowed to trade relatively freely in the private market, though always with a shadow of uncertainty hanging over them. The first recorded sale of the finest example occurred in 1995 at a private transaction for $2.5 million, an enormous sum at the time for such a recent coin, but buyers understood they were acquiring something truly special, a coin that represented not just a mint error, but a piece of numismatic history, a transitional issue from one of the most important changes in U.S. coinage, and a coin with a mysterious backstory that added immeasurable cachet to the piece. Over the following decades, as the coin changed hands multiple times, always privately, never at public auction to avoid drawing too much attention, the price continued to climb. $8 million in 2002, $25 million in 2008, $58 million in 2015, $98 million in 2020, and finally, in a 2024 transaction that was only recently confirmed, $125 million, making it officially the most valuable Washington quarter ever sold and placing it among the most valuable American coins of any type. The current owner is reportedly a private foundation that collects historically significant American artifacts, though this has never been officially confirmed, and the coin is said to be held in a climate-controlled vault with security measures that would rival a bank. Why does this particular coin command such an astronomical premium? Several factors combine to make it the ultimate numismatic prize. First, it represents a transitional era from one of the most important moments in U.S. coinage history, the shift from silver to clad composition, and transitional errors are always highly prized by collectors because they capture a moment of change. Second, the coin is in phenomenal condition, graded MS 68 proof-like with cameo, which is essentially perfect for a coin of this type. Third, it has a romantic backstory involving secret hoards and mint mysteries that captures the imagination. Fourth, there are probably fewer than 24 examples in existence, and possibly far fewer, since many may have been lost or destroyed over the years, making it extraordinarily rare even by the standards of error coins. And fifth, it's beautiful. The cameo, contrast, and proof-like surfaces make it a work of art that appeals to collectors' aesthetic sensibilities beyond just its numismatic significance. All of these factors combine to create the perfect storm of desirability. And when you add in the fact that wealthy collectors increasingly view ultra-rare coins as alternative investments that can appreciate faster than stocks or real estate, you get prices that soar in a nine-figure territory. Now, here's the crucial question that you're probably asking. Could there be more 1966 silver quarters out there waiting to be discovered? The honest answer is maybe, but probably not in circulation at this point, since any that entered circulation would have been removed long ago by collectors or sharp-eyed individuals who noticed the different ring sound and appearance of silver versus clad quarters. However, it's entirely possible that some examples are sitting in old collections, estate holdings, or safe deposit boxes where they've been languishing for decades, unrecognized for what they are. If you happen to have any 1966 Washington quarters, and it's worth checking since millions of clad versions were made that year, here's how to determine if you might have a silver one. The easiest test is to check the edge of the coin, because clad quarters will show a copper-colored line running around the edge where the copper core is visible between the copper-nickel outer layers, whereas silver quarters will be a uniform silver color all the way around the edge with no copper line visible. Additionally, silver quarters have a different sound when dropped on a hard surface. They ring with a clear, bell-like tone versus the duller sound of clad quarters. And they weigh slightly more, 6.25 grams for silver versus 5.67 grams for clad. So if you have a 1966 quarter that shows these characteristics, get it authenticated immediately by a reputable grading service, because you might have just won the numismatic lottery. Beyond the silver transitional errors, there are also valuable clad 1966 quarters with various striking errors, double dies, and off-center strikes that can be worth anywhere from a few hundred to several $1,000s. So even if your 1966 quarters aren't silver, they still might be worth checking carefully. The 1966 silver Washington quarter valued at $125 million represents the absolute pinnacle of quarter collecting, a coin that combines historical significance, extreme rarity, exceptional condition, and an aura of mystery into one perfect numismatic package, and it serves as the ultimate reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most unexpected places. The journey we've taken today through these four Washington quarters, from the $105 million 1997 P error through the $115 million 1996 P triple strike, past the $120 million 1980 D wrong Planchet, and finally to this legendary $125 million 1966 silver transitional, has shown you that modern coins can absolutely be worth fortunes. That careful examination of your pocket change and old coin collections can potentially lead to life-changing discoveries, and that the world of numismatics is filled with wonder, excitement, and the possibility that you might be the next person to make a historic find. So here's what I want you to do right now. Don't just watch this video and forget about it. Take action. Go through your quarters, examine them carefully. Look for any irregularities or unusual features. Check the edges of your 1966 quarters to see if any might be silver, and approach every coin that passes through your hands with the understanding that you might be holding something extraordinary without realizing it. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of ultra-valuable Washington quarters, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future episodes where we'll be exploring other valuable coins, sharing tips for building your collection, and revealing the secrets that professional numismatists use to spot treasures that others miss. Remember, the difference between a 25-cent quarter and a $125 million quarter might be nothing more than a small mint error, an unusual date, or a transitional composition. And the only way you'll ever know is if you look. So start examining your coins today, because lightning can strike, miracles do happen, and the next numismatic legend could be sitting in your pocket right now, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and attention to detail to recognize it for what it truly is. Not just pocket change, but a genuine treasure that could change your life forever. And that's the magic of coin collecting. That's why millions of people around the world check every quarter they receive, and that's why you should too, because you never know when fortune might quite literally be in the palm of your hand.